Everyone wants to take their business, their skills, to the next level. Small and mid-sized business owners have exceptional insight into how to do this. They endure and thrive because they find ways to overcome the challenges that come their way, and they can teach us valuable lessons to apply to our own companies and lives. Stephen Nooner, founder and owner of Alkali, a company with a unique process that helps businesses more effectively buy and manage their insurance programs. And Bob Gibbons, builder of Riata Commercial Realty, a real estate advisor and tenant advocate, are two prominent Metroplex businessmen who, along with their weekly guests, will ask their and your probing questions, finding impactful solutions that will help you reach for the next level. Here are your hosts, Stephen Nooner and Bob Gibbons.
Welcome to The Next Level, Conversations that Propel Business. This is your host, Bob Gibbons, and normally the younger, smarter, better-looking host, Stephen Nooner, would come on and say he was the better, smarter, better-looking host, younger, but he can't do that today because he is at home sick with his lovely wife, who is also sick, and his lovely children, two of the three that are also sick. So he's not in a good place today. So Stephen, get well soon. We feel your pain. Although I'd rather you be feeling the pain than me, if it's all the same to you. So today,
truth be told,
today I am excited because we have Matt Manero with us. Matt is the founder of Commercial Fleet Financing, and Commercial Fleet Financing does equipment financing for all kinds of things: trucks, trailers, equipment, you name it. They've been in business since 1995. So what is that, 21, 22 years now? They've grown their business by helping their customers grow their businesses, which is not exactly what I expected to hear from somebody that's doing equipment financing. But we're looking forward to that. They've funded over $1 billion of transactions for 10,000 customers. They're the three-time winner of the coveted Inc. magazine 500 or 5,000 fastest growing companies for 2014, 15, and 16. No pressure for 17 there, Matt. And he's the CEO that have founded 4 different companies with $100 million or more in revenue as of now. So welcome, Matt.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Glad you're here. And for our listeners, if you'd like to learn more about Matt, you can go to commercialfleetfinancing.com or mattmanero.com. And Manero is spelled M-A-N-E-R-O.
That's great. Happy to be here.
So fill in a few little gaps there. Anything I missed that is critical that we know right now?
Probably about 22 years of pain and suffering, probably, right?
And more to come.
And more to come, maybe. But the reality is, I like to say that I'm now finally on the pleasure side of small business, right? And I've been able to get the business out of the pain side that so many stay stuck in, and I've been able to get it to the pleasure side. And I've done it through a process that I just refer to as grit. Just a mental toughness, sometimes a physical toughness that requires you to get up every day with focus, purpose, and get after it.
Well, our listeners know we start off with the wisdom of others, which is quotes from other people. So today's quote is from a guy named James Altucher. I'm not even sure I've got that pronunciation correctly, but he said, "In the valley of failure, you sow the seeds of success."
Yeah.
And that kind of sounded kind of like what you talk about with grit.
It is. I mean, I if you wouldn't mind, I have a quote that I live by, which is anything legal, anything. And I really believe that so many business owners are trying to figure out, things that fit into their comfort zone. And I chose very early on to remove that. Anything legal, anything for my success. And so, as long as it's up and up and it's by the rules, it's fair game. And I mean, that goes to such extreme levels for me, where I remember in the early days, we financed truckers. We also financed construction companies and towing companies, but trucking was how I got my start. And in the very early days, I had this old dumpy Chevy Suburban with the panel doors on the back. Mm-hmm. And I had a sign made, and across the top of the sign, it said truck financing here with arrows pointing. And when I'd open the panel doors to the Suburban, I would slide the sign in between the door jambs, and I would sit on the tailgate of the Suburban at truck stops, sometimes 6 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock at night.
So you go to them. You don't wait for them to come to you.
Always go right to the truck stop, sit there. Well, I mean, it's like the old bank robbery. Why'd you rob the bank? Because that's where the money is, right? And why go to the truck stop? That's where the truckers are. And
wow.
invariably they would come up to me, and one or two every time, and we would just talk, and I would learn the business. What are their problems? How do they do well? What are the niches that they're in? What are the lanes that they run? What type of equipment do they like? And that type of just grassroots desperation following anything legal, anything, really began to make me an expert in the space.
And did the truck stops have any problem with you doing this?
It's funny you say that. Back then, there was no issue with that, right? This was 1995, 1996. There was no issue with that. It was sort of the wild, wild west. Today, totally impossible. There's no possible way you could drive onto a Flying J or a Pilot or a Love's truck stop, park your car, open the back of it, put a sign up, and think that security isn't going to come over and pay you a little visit.
Is that because too many other people have tried similar tactics now, or because they have become so corporate that they're not doing that?
It's corporate. I also think there's a terrorism factor to it, right? There's lots of millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of freight sitting in their parking lot. And then I think there also is a little customer service piece, right? They don't want their clients, truckers who are spending the night, to be bothered by solicitors. But when I started, those things weren't even on anyone's radar screen.
Interesting. All right, so let's go backwards then. Let's get back to early days. You're talking about early days, but let's go even earlier. Sure. Where did this idea come from? What were you doing before?
I grew up in Connecticut. My real father left when I was 6 months old, left my mother and I. Never saw him again, never heard from him. That, without question, created a void, a desperation, really, to be frank, a chip on my shoulder that I still, although I try to tamp it down a little bit, I still carry it probably pretty publicly. And that just created a drive and an ambition in me to want to beat the next guy. And so I got into this business by happenstance, really, and I was transferred to Dallas, Texas in 1995 to open up our first satellite office. And the minute I got here, everything changed: the budget, the plan, the culture, the growth. And I said, I think I can do this. I think I can try this thing on my own.
So you were already in a company that was doing fleet financing.
Correct.
Okay.
And I'd probably be there today. I loved working for the owner. I loved the company. But when I got here, I was pretty much left for dead in this little dumpy one-bedroom apartment. It was supposed to be a one-year gig. And after a few months, I said, I think I can leave and try this on my own. And I left and immediately got sued for a breach of my non-compete clause. So not only did I have no money, but I was fighting a lawsuit. And all my customers left me except for one. I had one customer in Greenville, Texas, who stayed with me. And he and I became very good friends. And I would call him and say, Bobby, I'm out. It's over. There's like no money left. And he would say, you're my finance guy. I'm going to buy a truck. You're going to finance it, and you're going to make it.
So where would you get the money to finance it? I mean, were you just a broker?
I had one bank, and I was able to make an extremely small markup on the rate. And I had one customer. And I know that may sound, hard to believe, but it's that level of desperation. It's that level of brokenness. I mean, I remember looking out the window, watching the repo man drive off with my car. And
really, your car got repoed?
When I say desperation, that car got repossessed. I was down to my last $40, and I had it on a Shell gas card. And I walked to the Shell station on the corner, and I bought $40 worth of Frosted Flakes and milk. And I walked back to that dumpy apartment, and I said, this isn't how it finishes. I'm going to do something with my life. And that was it. And I turned it around.
So what did you do first? How did you start digging out?
I committed to my success deeper. I think it's a real challenge that so many people have. They actually want to be successful enough so that they can coast. They never really, right? We hear this concept of 10x this and 10x that lately. That's such a fallacy. Nobody ever gets to 10x. Because if they start at 1x, by the time they get to 3x and the bills aren't on pink slips anymore and they can take their family out to fancy steakhouse, maybe take a nice vacation, buy a nicer car, maybe they ratchet it back. They stop at 3x or 4x. Nobody knows what it's like to get to 10x. And I didn't either, by the way. My money didn't come until 15 years into this business before I really started to make what I would call real money.
So you started getting a few more clients. You must have started making some money hired people, employees, et cetera.
We did,
but,
yeah. I mean, we
but
started.
you still were kind of on cruise in a way. I mean,
Well, we were desperation mode. By about 2000, the business was throwing off a living wage for me. And
Okay.
so for those listening who are doing the math on that, that's 5 years of struggle. It was 5 years before my business really threw off a reasonable living wage, maybe the replacement of the income that I was making before I left that company.
wow.
And then that hit, and then 0102 hit. And nobody was buying equipment in
No.
01 or 02. And so we contracted again big time. I suppose we were broke in 01 and 02 again. And then I ramped it up again to 08, 09. And by that point in time, we had a pretty fat balance sheet. We had our own money. We were loaning our own. We were loaning money in warehouse lines of credit, similar to the real estate business. So we were borrowing from a bank. The bank was loaning the money to us, and then we marked it to the street at whatever the spread was that we could make.
Yeah.
And then I suppose on paper in 08, 09, we were broke again because nobody was buying anything in 08 or 09.
Not even one.
Nothing was happening. And yet we had tremendous debt service. We had repossessions that were starting to creep up. We had delinquencies, and we weren't collecting as much. We weren't originating as much, and it was a very difficult time. But again, anything legal, anything, I just kept showing up.
So whenever somebody that you lend money to buy a truck or equipment or whatever doesn't pay,
Yeah.
are you the one responsible for
Totally.
repo, or is somebody else?
100%. That's why we own an auction company and a dealership. So if the deal goes bad, we can run it through our auction platform or our dealership. We're on the hook, and so for us, we only work with good credit, small customers, small business owners. Bubba the trucker is our customer, but Bubba's been in business 5 years and he has a 700 credit score. And so we have a very low delinquency rate and default rate. But in 08, 09, nobody was protected, right? Even the good guys fell on hard times. And so the trickle-down effect hit us.
Of course.
And it wasn't fun.
So whenever you say Bubba's your client, so does Bubba grow? And I mean, I know one of the things I said in the intro was that you grow by helping your customers
Yeah.
grow. So how do you do that?
It's the mission statement of our company. Our company's mission statement is CFF exists to help our clients and ourselves reach our full potential through expertise, expectations, and gratitude. That's how I run the business. And those things have so many different meanings inside of them. But the reality is, as the customer base grows, we grow with them.
Okay, so give us something a little more tangible than that in how you help a customer grow.
Yeah, so Bubba has one truck and comes to us maybe to buy his second truck. And the first question is, that's a done deal, Bubba. Let's get you to 10, right? Bubba, you got 10. How do I get you to 100, right? So tell me what your plans are. What do you want to do? Have you been to our YouTube channel? We have 1,000 videos on there talking about different business strategies. Have you read our book, The 10 Tips Every Trucker Needs to Know? I mean, we want to help you run a better business because as your business gets better, we will finance more equipment for you because you're in the trucking business. The only way you grow is more equipment.
And do most of your clients take you up on that?
I think from a learning standpoint, even if they have one truck or they have 100 trucks, they do want to run a better business. So from an educational standpoint, it's important. But we have many customers who will get from 1 to 10, and they'll say, I'm good. I'm fine. I don't need to go from 10 to 100. Leave that to J.B. Hunt or Swift or Schneider.
Yeah.
I'm good right where I am. And then we would try and challenge that customer. And we wouldn't challenge them because we want more business. We would challenge them because I believe that without growing, your business is very, very precarious.
And all your clients in Texas, or are they all over
Nationwide.
the country?
We work
Nationwide.
nationwide.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little more about CFF, but we're going to go beyond that and talk about what happens when you realize that you need to be the public face of the company
Let's get there.
for good or bad.
Yeah.
And now, Confessions of a Recovering Landlord.
This is Bob Gibbons with Riata Commercial Realty, and I am your recovering landlord. After 20 years as a landlord, I now use that experience only for the benefit of companies that lease or buy office buildings and warehouses. Today's confession: knowledge is power. We all negotiate from a position of power and strength, or at least we want to. In any negotiation, the party with the most knowledge probably has the upper hand, and landlords count on this being the case whenever you're negotiating a lease, because most landlords are professional real estate investors and they hire professional leasing agents and property managers. Landlords are in the market every day negotiating leases, while tenants probably only negotiate 1, maybe 2 leases every few years. So tenants feel outgunned. Don't let landlords have all the power. As a former landlord for 20 years, I understand how landlords think and what motivates them. So let me put that knowledge and experience to work on your side of the negotiation. To learn more, contact me at TexasTenantRep.com. Again, that's TexasTenantRep.com.
Have you started making plans to take your business to the next level in 2016? Hi, I'm Stephen Nooner, founder and CEO of Alkali. We have a trademark process called the Empowered Advantage that enables CEOs, business owners, and entrepreneurs to more effectively buy and manage their insurance. Before sitting down to make your plans for the new year, here are just a few things to consider. Would you say that you have an actual insurance strategy, one that you can articulate, or have you just purchased a policy here and there over the years? If you have an insurance strategy, was it discussed under the pressure of a renewal deadline or considered earlier in the year to avoid fire drill decision making? If your answer was no to either of these questions, then you may not have the right partner on your team. Visit alkaliservices.com to contact us and take the next step to a bigger and better future.
Hi, this is Al with Royal Catering. If you need catering anywhere in the Dallas-Fort Worth area any day, just call us. It's been great being with Steve and Bob today, but I'm hungry and going to go eat now.
Welcome back to the next level, conversations that propel business. We're here with our guest today, Matt Manero of Commercial Fleet Financing. Please go to commercialfleetfinancing.com or mattmanero.com to learn more about Matt. And as I mentioned earlier, our friend Stephen Nooner is at home sick, so he's not with us today. So, Matt, before the break, I kind of teased the audience a little bit with what happens when you are told you need to become the face of the company. And by face, I mean you have to be out there, you have to be visible in social media, on video, on the radio, etc. Mm-hmm. When did you get that news that you should do that, and how did you react?
Well, I think you're lucky enough if someone actually does tell you that.
Oh, yeah.
If someone in your circle is telling you that, that's all. That's you already have a raving fan inside, right? And maybe someone sees something in you that that allows you to overcome your fear of doing it. But the reality in business today is, if you're not promoting yourself, who is going to promote yourself? I mean, it's a simple strategy, but if you're not willing to put yourself out there, why would you ever expect anyone to be a raving fan of you? If you're not a raving fan of you, who is? You
got to have belief in yourself. And I said this on the show a few weeks ago. The guy that gave me my first job in real estate 33 years ago, his statement was, I'm going to screw this up. He who tooteth not his own horn, the shame shall not be tooted. And I thought that is such a bizarre way to say it, but it's exactly what you're saying.
I just think the marketplace is clouded and crowded, and it's very easy to get lost. Great companies get lost every day, never have success because the client base doesn't have the ability to find them.
So is service not good enough anymore?
I mean, look, so many places have good service, right? Now, lots of places have good service. Very few have great or exceptional service, but there are a lot of okay companies that get business, and in a good economy like we've been having, they can survive. Now, they'll go out in the bad economy, which we will have in another 2 years or so. Things will turn. It can't continue at the pace that it has. But somebody's got to be the face of the business. I had a marketing manager a few years ago who told me I was going to be that guy, and I specifically said, if you tell me that again, I'm going to fire you because I'm not going to be the face of the company. It's uncomfortable for me, and I don't want to do it. I read an amazing book called The 10X Rule by a guy named Grant Cardone, and in that book, Cardone talks about the importance of exposure. He says the biggest problem you have is nobody knows you, and I would add further to that probably even a bigger problem than that is that you think people know you and nobody knows you. And that's where it gets really dangerous.
So what did you do first when you finally came around to the idea that you weren't going to fire this guy and you're really going to do what he said, and you're going to become the face? What's the first step in that? I
wrote a booklet called 10 Tips Every Independent Trucker Needs to Know Now. The first thing I did was write a free giveaway in which to get the giveaway, you had to send it back to us and get we had to collect your email address. That was the first thing we did. Then we wrote it to other industries. So with 10 tips for truckers, construction, moving, towing. We began to spread that, position ourselves as experts in the space. And then we began to record videos against the chapters of those booklets, right?
Wow.
And then we would push those out on our YouTube channel. And then I decided to write a book called The Grit. It's not a autobiography or any of that sort of stuff. It's just someone gave me a review on it not too long ago, and they said it's like the Cliff Notes of business. And I thought that was a wonderful review.
Well, and thank you. You gave me a copy, and I'm holding it here in front of the camera for anybody that's watching this. So thank you. So The Grit, the only thing you need to make millions by Matt Manero.
It's available at mattmanero.com. And then that opened up the door. The book opened up the door to some speaking engagements with associations in my industry. And then those videos opened up doors to some more mainstream stuff. And today we have over 1,000 videos on our company YouTube channel.
So how did you promote those? I mean, it's one thing to go out and create a book, to create a video, but you still got to market that. So how did you do that?
We made every mistake in the book. We threw noodles on the ceiling to see if it sticks. Our strategy was poor. Our execution was poor. All we knew to do was just do the content. We really didn't know how to push it out there. And then we hired a social media person who came into our company, and she would start to just develop our YouTube channel and our Facebook account and all this sort of stuff. And before we knew it, we had a reasonably good tribe, if you will, right? If Seth Godin's comment of, you need a tribe of a couple hundred people, we ended up with a tribe. That then, opened up a lot of other doors, but it opens up challenges too. So for the audience who's listening, they need to understand that many people inside your organization may not appreciate you doing this. And they may think you're doing it self-serving.
Just because you want to be a star.
Right, you want to be a star, and you want to be the big shot, and they will resent you for it. And I had some people in my organization who did, until I began to get the association gigs in our industry. And every time you speak in an association, you're going to pull 2 or 3, 4, 5, 6 leads. And then they started to see it work, and now we have a company culture that is radically supports promotion. And by the way, I go so far as to say this: even if you're an employee, you need to be building your own personal brand, because if you choose to leave that employer, which all employers should understand that most employees want to leave eventually, whether they do or not, that's different, but most do. You need to have a personal brand to take with you, because you become more valuable to the next employer. Or if you choose to go out on your own. So you must have a personal presence. Doggone it. If you're in business, you don't have a LinkedIn account and a Twitter account and a Facebook account, and you don't have some videos out there, I would go so far as to say shame on you. You need that stuff.
Yeah, it's almost like a resume from 20 years ago. Everybody had a resume. Well, now your resume is LinkedIn.
It is, and because what you're afraid of is totally false. The customers want that interaction with you. You think that you're afraid to put yourself out there, but you're missing the biggest part. The customers want it from you. In fact, some customers, there's not a customer that comes into our office, there's not an interviewee who comes into our office that does not say, I watched some of your videos. Not a one. You need to have that for yourself too.
We had a guest on our show many months ago, and he was trying to hire a key employee, and he couldn't quite convince this person to come work for him. Well, eventually the guy called him up and said, yeah, I'm in, let's go. And so he came to work for him. And after about 3 weeks, our guest went to him and said, hey, by the way, why did you suddenly decide it was okay to come work here? And his response was, well, look, I knew about the company. I knew everything about what you wanted me to do here. I was in on the company. What I wasn't sold on was you. I didn't know who you were as a manager. Yeah. And then I came across this radio interview you did, turned out to be on here on The Next Level.
Cool.
And it told me who you were as a person, how you valued your employees, how what the corporate culture was like. And I was sold. I'm done. So he came, and he was like, wow, that was pretty incredible.
There's a dark side to that, though. And it just happened to me last week, where I interviewed a guy, and he had watched a ton of videos, and he had sent all kinds of correspondence telling us he was a world-class sales guy. He was a sales killer. We can't wait to hire this guy. He was telling us all this sort of stuff. And he came in, and through the expiration of the first interview, he told me that he was working a job making $10 an hour.
Oh.
And I said, well, wait a minute, hang on a minute. You're a sales killer, right? I mean, that's the whole story. You told us you're an amazing sales guy, right? But you're working for $10 an hour. You're making $400 a week. You're making $18,000 a year. And you want to come into our office and tear it up? I mean, there's quite a gap here, my friend. And I said, here's what I would suggest to you. Go into the marketplace. Be that sales killer that you say. Get to $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year in income, and then come back to us and let us help you get to 125 or 150 grand a year, right? That's what we're good at. But taking you from 18 to 150 is very unfair on us and unfair expectation. Do you know that when I drove out into the parking lot that night, he had written an obscenity on my book. He threw it out in the parking lot, and then he went on our website and wrote what a jerk I was and all that stuff.
Yeah, you do make yourself vulnerable when you're online.
You have
to
to
all
be,
that.
Yep, and you have to be willing to take the good and the bad.
Well, speaking of making yourself vulnerable, you told me a story earlier before the show that blew my mind, which was that you put all your employee scrum meetings, you call it, online.
Everyone.
So tell us first, what is a scrum meeting and what in the world made you do that?
We committed to full transparency in my office. I mean, we committed to full transparency, that I was going to lift the curtain and show our clients and our competitors everything. And so every morning at our company for the last 4 years, we do a CFF morning scrum. 9:30, we close the company down. Everybody comes to the conference table, and we talk about results from yesterday, what are we doing today, and what are the objectives for the quarter. We have very few objectives for the quarter. This quarter, we have 2 objectives. That's it.
For all employees?
All employees, everyone in the company. 2 for the first quarter 2017. The first one is 100% accuracy in everything we do, and the creation of raving fans. That's it. There are 2 things that all we want to do is focus on. And we review that in the scrum. Well, we started to record it. And then we put it on our YouTube channel. And then we started to go on Facebook Live and Periscope and share it to everybody. And caused a little trouble in the office at some points, but it's without question been one of the best things we ever did.
Now, were you able during these meetings to talk about clients?
The only thing
contracts
the only thing I didn't do, because we share numbers in our office, the only thing I didn't do was show net profit numbers on the scrums. We show it in the office, and we show revenue numbers and funding numbers, but I don't show to the audience what net profit margin is.
So when you went to this full transparency model, what was the consequences of that?
Yeah, I had a lot of employees that didn't like it, and I don't think they trusted me in it, and they thought that I was out to build some media business. I mean, the first thing that people need to understand is there is no money in books, right? Zero money in books.
Yeah.
My first book, I have a second book coming out at the end of the year, which was a big publishing deal. There's still no money in books. So you have to just stay the course. If nothing else comes from what we're talking about, if we go back to the original story, I just kept showing up every day. You got to choose to make the right decisions and then do it for a long period of time.
All right. So what's the best way for people to see more about you, connect with you if they need to?
Yeah, any simple Google search for mattmanero.com will connect you right to my companies and certainly back to me. So the best thing is mattmanero.com. It's mattmanero.com on all social media platforms as well.
Well, and if you want to learn more about the show, please go to nextlevelshow.com. And if you go to our archives, we interviewed Casey Kronbeck with Night Vest Capital at one time, and amazing story. They went to a tax sale, didn't buy what they intended to buy, came away with a bunch of apartments and totally changed their business. They've invested in hundreds of millions of dollars in apartment complexes now. And so it's a real fascinating story. So go look up Casey Kronbeck, and we'll be here next week with another great guest, and hopefully Stephen Nooner as well. Have a great week.
Thanks, Bob. Appreciate it.
You have been listening to The Next Level, Conversations That Propel Business with Stephen Nooner and Bob Gibbons. Join us every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. for more prolific conversations that will take your business to the next level.